12 Roses for Love. First impression, first love. She lay there in all her innocent splendour, virginal white, not a single mark on her visage that suggested any other. Never had a bride been quite so innocent of everything. There was no suggestion that she had undergone a lifetime of pain, of being crushed, beaten, and then beaten again. Every ounce of her strength had once been sapped. She had been ripped from limb to limb and then put together again. All those who had been part of her earlier life had been taken from her, and when she was bereft of all support, her captors had thrashed her until there was not a fibre in her being that could hold her upright. That's when her spirit broke. She wept until she could weep no more. She was drained of all the tears that nature had once given her. Her memories too were erased. Occasionally she recalled a carefree time when the wind caressed her. But it was a false memory, as was the other one. The gentle sun on her body, each limb kissed with its golden warmth and russet love. She was made to forget it all. It was best not to remember. As if that wasn't enough, her captors had then passed her on to a new set of tormentors. These were not so physically violent, but they delighted in immersing her in chemical baths to see how she would react. By now, she had lost the ability to do so. Her cringing fears and the care lines they had once left on her face were obliterated forever. Gradually, that pale, white, implacable expression became the one she wore all the time. It was what helped her make it through the nights. The dry, dead heat of apathy finally left her limp, yet flexible, willing to utterly surrender to whatever the world threw in her direction. He stood across the room and stared at her. His eyes were hollows of consternation. He found her pale, stark, empty countenance a touch frightening. There was nothing he could think of to say or convey that would soften the alabaster indifference she exuded from top to toe. To him, she was a challenge. Her expression was not that of a submissive captive, it was more an arrogant and provocative confrontation. The tilt of her body, the clean, creamy white softness of her were both inviting and intimidating. His fingers twitched with desire. He longed to touch her, to stroke every part of her, to cover her with his declarations of love, of fidelity, of aching passion. There was nothing he wanted more, and yet he was frozen. What could he possibly say? How could he say it in such a way that it had never been said before? How would she react? He paced the floor. He ran his fingers through his hair, turning to look at her every few minutes. He sat down across from her. He was dumbfounded. By now, the lengthening shadows of evening had thrown his chamber into shadow. But she continued to lie there, not a change in her manner, not a flicker of acquiescence, extending neither hope nor rejection. He threw his hands up in the air. "What do you want me to do?" he demanded. Her silence continued. Only her skirt rustled as a breeze blew in through the window, carrying with it the plaintive cry of a nightingale. Then he stopped, lit a candle, and looked at her again, as if seeing her for the first time. In the soft light of the candle, she was less daunting. The gentle breeze and the nightingale's song seemed to calm him down. He sat down at his desk, drew the bride, that white sheet of paper, towards him, ran his finger gently down the page, and picked up his pen. At last the writer could make his first impression. Once upon a time,